Back with another Lian Li case and another mini ITX cases. It's going to be kind of a theme. The next box opening in a couple weeks, whenever I get it, is another mini ITX. So let's do this. Welcome to Simple Rud. This is another case, another box opening. Rather small. In fact, 11 liters small. And Lian Li's been hitting it out of the park lately. So I'm going to guess that this one's going to be another popular build. So, let's get this thing out of the box and check it out. I did go with the all black because I felt for this case it looked better. And a majority of the cases I buy are all black anyways. So, I guess let's just get to what was in the box. You've got a manual, which is kind of thickish, so that should be handy. Yeah, plenty of pages. Nice pictures of walkthroughs. So that's nice to see. I know all of these instructions can be found online, so you don't really get this that often from my experience, and if you do, they're rather vague. But you can always go on the website and find more information. Now, my normal mini ITX experience have been with, the vertical tower variety, like the Meshalicious and the Shift. However, I've done some smaller builds like the P200A, the P300A, the 011 Mini, which is a mini ITX case that also fits ATX, and it's kind of big, so, sure. This, however, really limits what you can do. Okay, so that has pros and cons, of course. Limitations suck because you've got to stay within those limitations. However, the more focused you are on your design and your concept, the more ideal it is for those situations. Meaning that it should fit more of those, of the idea of the build. When you get big and you get to, let's say, the Evo, for example. Now, it's not the greatest example because they did it really well, but you have so many different options that the case isn't really focused on one option, one build. It's focused to allow you to do any of those. This is very focused in one way. So you can fit a 240 AIO in it. Not a very big one, 55 millimeters thick. From what I've seen, and actually what I've ordered for when I do go to build on this, is EK's basic 240 AIO. And it's under $100, good deal. You got the thumb screws on the back, and then, wow. And then it pops out on top of that. Wow, and it already kind of bent just by doing that. I guess it's kind of just got a wobble, so it's not really bent. So you've got very similar to the Meshalicious. You got these little knobs there that pop into plastic clips. So this one, instead of like the mesh, which just clips on there, this one does have your screws on the back. So when you put those in, although they aren't captured, so if you didn't want to use them, you don't have to. I think it's just that little extra security. However, they are rather difficult to pop off, so maybe you don't actually need them. Front and back come off just like that. Now what you see here is where your mini ITX goes. You do have two options in this case other than the two color options, so technically four options. You have the PCI riser 3.0, 4.0. The 3.0 model is $130, and the 4.0 is closer to $180. Now, with that being said, I couldn't actually find any for sale right now. So it looks like you might be waiting a while if you haven't already ordered one of these cases. If you have, awesome. Good luck. Now, SFF power supply, or SFX. So you're looking at, Lian Li has a great one. Corsair has my favorite one. I use it a lot, but more and more companies are starting to come out with them. And they're even getting up to, so they do have an SFXL that's 1,000 watt. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you're increasing these wattages. Cool, you can get more power, of course, into your tiny system. But with more power comes more heat. So make sure that whatever you're doing, you've got a plan for dissipating that heat. Even if you're just undervolting things to not produce so much heat. So the front just clips on as well. Now you do want to take the front off to get your larger graphics cards in there. Now this will fit up to a 3-slot graphics card at 322 millimeters long. So sadly, my 2080 Ti would not fit in this. But a lot of your 30 series actually will fit in this. Or, you know, they're going to be very close. So make sure, if you've already got your graphics card, that it's going to fit in this. Now, if you're going water blocks and you're trying to do a custom loop in this, then that might, you know, change the length as well. So just keep in mind that you are going to be limited when you find a case like this. So the top pops off just like the front and the sides, which I'm really starting to like these. You know, they have a nice quality. They do have a little locating pin as well to kind of help with the rigidity once it's in there. Now when you look on the top, you got 4 screws. Now what these 4 screws do is it takes out your fan bracket or your radiator bracket. Now, like I said, you can do a 240 in here, but you are limited to 55 millimeters of length. So, or 55 millimeters of thickness, sorry. So with that, you're going to be limited as well, because that's only allowing you, you know, a 30 millimeter radiator and 25 millimeter fan. So Arctic's 240, I believe that radiator is 38 millimeters thick. So I don't know that it's going to fit in this. And, you know, I wouldn't even risk it, because you would have to find slim fans. So if you wanted to, you could probably get Noctua's 15 millimeter thick fans and mount it, which would give you extra radiator. But the cost of that extra radiator is less fans. So to lose that fan performance might not be worth gaining that extra radiator performance. Now with that, you know, this build is set up for only 2 fans unless you're air cooling your CPU. So you got to remember that as well, because you're only fitting 2 120s in this fan, whether you go AIO or not. I fixed it out so I can start taking off these brackets and give you guys a better look at what's going on inside. So with the ease of those 4 screws, this bracket comes out, which allows you to mount everything here, right? So you put your radiator and your fans and then your radiator, and then you're going to want to put this in. Now, one thing to keep note of is you have to be able to run your tubes and all that to your CPU block. So you've got to make sure that your CPU block is not hooked up before this radiator is in. So you want this ran, and you want to find out where your block goes and where those tubes are going to run in process. So what I'm getting at is you cannot mount it to the motherboard before this is in place. So just something to keep in mind. Now the bottom also comes off, which the bottom will allow for mounting of an SSD. It would have been nice to be able to see, you know, the room to mount a slim 120 fan down here. I know it's not much, but it's still something. And I'm sure people are going to find ways to mount 90 millimeter fans or something rather small to still get that airflow, because 2 120s are probably enough for most builds. But it might start thermal throttling your higher end build. So now taking off the bottom also opens up, you know, your cable management room as well. So my recommendation would be to take as many of these brackets off when you're building, so that you have more access to everything, because before doing so, you are really cramped. Now this is just another 4 screws. And it'll take off your power supply cover and I believe bracket. Yeah, so looking at this, your power supply will mount here. So you do have to take this bracket off to get your power supply. So this already has your power cord hookup with your cable inside of this to route to your power supply in here. And it looks like, yeah, all your wires are going to be routed through the bottom and up in either way. Now with the way these are set up, there's no rotating this or putting this in a different way. However, you know, if you want to get creative, that wouldn't work either. But, you know, you can start doing what I like to do and start thinking outside of the box, literally. So, you know, it wouldn't take much to put a custom top hat on here that would cover 2 fans, and you could run a thick boy, you know, 50 millimeter radiator with 2 T30s on top and really pump out the cooling. And, you know, you're still getting a small build, but you're taking up a lot more room at that point. Now, like I said, you got 3 slots. You do have the ability to move this, though, to allow for different airflow setups or, you know, getting closer to this edge. Now, you don't have any glass panels. This is all focused on airflow because, well, something like this, you need as much air in and out as possible. You don't have any filters set up in here, which I don't see as a problem, mainly because, you know, where your fans are set up, it's going to be set up as an exhaust, so you don't need filters there. And everything else is going to kind of be pulling in as much air, so expect this in time to get rather dusty. So your front I/O is right here on the side, so technically a side I/O. You do have your power button up here, you got your audio, your USB 3, and your USB-C, so that's nice to have, and actually kind of covers everything you need for the I/O. With that, I think I'm done with going over this case. Rather straightforward. It's a small case focused on, you know, not taking up much room. And a lot of these have already been built. People are loving this case, so it's good to see, you know, Lian really not only listening to fans, but moving forward with all of that as well. So don't forget to subscribe. I've got more content on the way, constantly working on, you know, either builds or case reviews or anything like that as well. In fact, I'm going to be throwing in a cooler review in time because I do have that basic EK240 and I want to see how it does. With that, thank you.